from Arsenal, dropping points at home against Everton. Here's Arteta.
Well, I feel very disappointed not to win the game, because obviously if there is a team that deserves to win, there is only one, which is Arsenal. We did nothing, we give nothing away. No shots conceded, dominated direct play, don't allow them to run, no set pieces. High press excellent, we have to track back excellent. We got them there, we generated the chances, but the last 20 meters it was missing to score goals, which is what you have to do with all the dominance, because we have never been able to dominate it that way.
And we're welcoming Gab Marcotti to the show. We're hearing from Gab in a moment. But Craig, I know this was your focus for the morning.
He's watched a slightly different game to me. No surprise that Everton didn't have much possession, didn't create many chances. No surprise that Arsenal dominated, but it was a very, at times, plodding, pedestrian performance. It was lopsided on the right-hand side with Odegaard and Saka, and very little from Martinelli. His substitutes were, I think, strange.
So he took off Odegaard, of course, which was the headline.
Well, okay, he might be looking long game. Oh, there's lots of games. Odegaard's had an injury, blah, blah, blah. He's your most creative player. You were struggling to create clear-cut chances. He takes him off, he takes Rice off, then he brings Partey on at right back. Trossard's the last one to come on. All right, young Wanyeri come on, he's a very talented youngster. But Trossard's he's been a game changer for them. He's done a lot of things, either starting or coming off the bench. He was the last one to come on. So I found these changes really, really baffling. And also, he's talking about goals. It's my favourite subject. The one guy he didn't take off, and once again he was a passenger, was Kai Havertz. I mean, it's almost every game. We sit here and say, what did he do? Yeah, he ran about, he closed down, he won a couple of headers. He didn't do anything of any note in and around the penalty area. So yeah, there was a couple of nice moments between Saka and Odegaard just before he took him off. And I was like, can't believe he's taking him off here. And Everton were always going to be a tough nut to crack. They came to London to defend and be difficult to beat and expect the keeper to make a few saves. And that's what happened. But in terms of Arsenal's creativity, it was a sort of 5 or 6 out of 10 rather than an 8 or 9 out of 10.
We've seen, this isn't the first time we've seen it this season.
No, and also there's a heavy reliance on going to Saka on the right-hand side and Odegaard drifting over there. And it kind of drags more Everton, more opposing players over, and it makes it tighter. And then you have to be looking for the switchy play. But again, there was half an hour left. Odegaard was starting to get more involved and he was starting to prod. And I just felt all these substitutions in terms of who he took off and who he brought on at particular times were really strange to me. And I mean, they wouldn't have known what was going on at Liverpool, probably were aware at half-time, but wouldn't have known as the game was going on in the second half. It was a great opportunity for Arsenal, a great opportunity. And yeah, I thought they were very good in possession, but very average in the final third. And again, I go back to it. The one man that stays on the field has the least impact of anybody, and that's the front man, Kai Havertz. So it's a problem. There's no point saying it's not a problem. It's a problem.
Arteta said afterwards, look, it was a tactical decision to take Odegaard off.
Right. I'd love to know what the tactic was. I mean, your two best players, you've got to win the game. Regardless of whether you know what's going on at Anfield or not, it really doesn't matter.
Correct.
You have to win the game. And in order to win the game, you have to keep your best players on the field. And if there was one player in Arsenal's armoury today that was creating anything, it was Odegaard. So I'm with Craig. This was totally and utterly baffling that you take arguably number one, your best player, and your captain, and you take him off the field so early. It makes no sense to me.
Is the criticism of Arteta just here, Gab?
It certainly permeated through the stadium. There were boos at halftime, which I thought was a bit harsh. But I think he's realizing, and this is the out I'm going to give him. He's realizing that over the last few games, really since Odegaard returned, Arsenal either create stuff through that Odegaard Saka chain down the right, or they score on set pieces. I mean, that's generally where it comes from. Some of the weapons that they hoped they had, whether it was Martinelli on the left. Mika Merino was supposed to come and add some creativity. Obviously, they've had some injuries with some of their guys at the back. None of this stuff has really materialized. And so you get games like this where, they could have scored in the second minute, forced Everton out, and then they might have won 3-0, or they just keep knocking and you know what you're going to get, as Craig said, from Everton, and then you get frustrated. And as for Havertz, I might add, he didn't start in midweek. He had I think it might have been his first game off of the season or thereabouts. They had Gabriel Jesus up front, and they destroyed Monaco. Doesn't mean you go with Gabriel Jesus from the start in a game like this. So, maybe you can point to the lack of an alternative of somebody with Kai Havertz's skill set who can give you something like that off the bench when he's flagging. But, clearly it's not a great moment for him.
Whenever I watch them, every now and again, when he's playing Brentford or, maybe playing Southampton, he'll do something, but and I don't want to pick on him, but it's such an important position. It's such an important position to both. And we talk about, we're going to talk over the weekend, and we have about Chelsea and how they've improved. Well, ironically, one of the biggest improvements in them has been the guy up front. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about Nicol Jackson, you're talking about link-up play, running the channels, goals, physicality, everything. He's brought that to this Chelsea side. Now, we could argue Arsenal are a better side than Chelsea. They're much more further down the line in terms of, going for the championship in the last couple of years. And yet Kai Havertz still struggles to do anything in a lot of games, anything of any note. And I get it. He works hard and he presses. He's a great professional, good attitude. I understand all that. But we're not in this sort of sentimental business. It's like today, you need results. You need results. Fulham away, you need results. And this is a position where they have a sort of 5 or 6 out of 10. You've got quality at the back when everybody's fit, and even today, absolutely rock solid. You've got a quality midfield. You've got a fantastic right-hand side. You've got some options in the left, and the 2 signings he's made, and let's be honest about it, we can throw Jesus in there as well. He's a talented player, but he's not a goal scorer. The 2 options for that position are weak, and that could cause them at the end of it. And I just watch them and think, right, and yet he stays on the field again. That's what I don't understand.
Can I jump on something Gab brought up about the set pieces? That's one of the ways they're going to score. Mm-hmm. 2 weeks ago, Craig and I sat here and we spoke about against Arsenal set pieces.
Yes.
You have to attack the ball. That's all Everton did today. They had Brentwaite in and around the front post. They had Tarkowski in and around the back post, and they had Pickford, who wants to come and punch it.
Right.
And that's all they did. And so there's only one ball. And they didn't get carried, those 3 in particular, didn't get carried away with all the movement and all the running around. They had other players doing all that. They just had their eyes on the ball. I'll go and attack the ball, and I'll go and win it. And I think there was only once that Saliba, late in the second half, won a header. But it was such a good challenge on him that Pickford threw his cap on it. So everybody else, if they watch this game today, that's how you do it against Arsenal set pieces.
Is it just me, or seems to be a sense of over-focus and excitement, particularly at the Emirates, when they won a corner? Mm-hmm. Everybody's talking about it. And it's like it's the most important thing. It's important. It's important. Set pieces are important. Of course it is. But it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is results and performance. But it feels that even whenever they got a corner of the day, and they had a few, it was almost like a kid that, a candy shop. It was like, oh, this is going to be a goal. And it's just taking I don't know if it's taking a focus away from the rest of it. Oh, we'll get a few set pieces and we'll win the game that way. You're not going to win the league doing that. Yeah, it can help you to get to the end game, but it'll be all about your general performances, and their general performance today with the amount of possession they had just wasn't good enough. And Everton, if you're looking at a defensive display only, deserved the point.
Go on, Gab.
I think you're a little harsh on Kai Havertz there, Craig. I do have a soft spot for it. Could it just not be that he's played a ton of football until the start of the season?
No. How can it be that he's just pretty average within this pretty talented Arsenal team, and he weakens in terms of you know, having a front man that's top quality, just not for me. I'm sorry. I want to give him a chance, Gab, in terms of analysing it, but every time I watch them, I see similarities week in, week out. Running around, winning a few headers, playing a few 5 and 10 yard passes, but not really doing anything definitive in the game where you think, wow, that was a game changer.
Right, let's reflect on what's been happening today. We're going to start in the Premier League. We're going to start at the Emirates, where Arsenal have missed a golden opportunity to capitalise on Liverpool drawing at home to Fulham this afternoon. Why, Tim Sherwood, were they not able to capitalise?
2 words, Jordan Pickford. I mean, what a performance he made.
Hence the smile at the end we just saw for him.
No, he was magnificent. He was very, very good. But he wasn't alone. They'd come for a point, and that's exactly what they got. They had no intention of driving forward and trying to win the football match. I think Sean Dyche is a master at this. If he knows that he's up against it, he set his team out. But they should have been beat 2 or 3, to be honest. But Pickford made some magnificent saves. They had a plan, you know, just to block the middle of the park. Guy, Decore and Mangala in the middle just protected Tarkowski and Branthwaite, who were excellent. Let the ball go wide. Every time the ball came into the box, they headed it out. And then they just reset again. They must have been doing it time and time again all week. They would have practiced this. They would have known what to expect. And Odegaard and Saka were opening them up time and time again in the first half. Odegaard picks that, you know, on that right side, just that the space in the corner of the box, and Saka, he was just sliding him in, and they were creating chances. And then on 62 minutes, Nicol decides to bring off Declan Rice and Odegaard. I'm not sure if they're injured. I mean, we're only speculating, but if they're not injured, I can't understand why he's brought him off, because when you bring off Odegaard, you disarm and you take away a lot of ammunition for Saka. And we never saw Saka when after that.
Very rarely see those kind of players being taken off.
Well, yeah, especially when you need a goal and you're lacking guile really in the midfield areas. Odegaard sees the picture, disguised passes. He's got every club in the bag. He little float ones over the top. He can drive it into people. He picks the right pass at the right time. He comes off, and from there on in, it was predictable from Arsenal. You know, just packed the box, and Everton were just happy then. You could feel like they were comfortable just soaking it up, and there was no space to operate. And when there was a half chance from set pieces, they just put their bodies on the line and defended. And they really played for the shirt today, and they got the point they come for.
By the way, we talked to Boydie more about this. So we were showing you those scenes at the end of the game between Wolverhampton Wanderers and Ipswich Town, with Ipswich Town have won by 2-1. We saw Ryan Aït-Nouri really involved, being held back by a number of figures at Molineux. Well, he was in the end booked for a second bookable offence, so he has effectively been sent off in that game, but it came after the full-time whistle. We'll reflect more on that. We'll go back to the Emirates and back to what Tim was watching. That's now 14 points that Arsenal have dropped in their last 9 games in the Premier League. However good they might have been midweek against Monaco, in terms of a title race, that's way too many to drop.
It is, yeah. Like I said at the top of the show early on this afternoon, I still fancy them to put a run together, but they need their best players on the pitch to be able to achieve this. And if they're not playing well, we've seen them for the last few months, you know, or for all the season, get set pieces and score from set pieces. Doesn't matter how you win as long as you take maximum points. But today, they couldn't find that because Everton got their head on the first ball. You know, so it was very few chances from set pieces. I've never seen a crowd get so excited about a set piece. You know, especially a crowd like Arsenal, when they've got players who can open you up and, you know, and free flowing. We've seen them over the years, but they almost believe their best chance to score now is from a set piece. The roar goes up when a corner's been given, and they do look a threat. But Everton just stood up to it today.
Well, 6 clean sheets in the last 9 games for Sean Dyche's side. They might not be entertaining going forward, but they're a tough nut to crack.
You don't want a season ticket there, do you? But he's just paid to do a job, Sean. That's why he's a safe pair of hands, and I always feel like if he manages any team in the Premier League, he's going to keep them in it. But you know, he would argue if he had the better players, then he could embroider it and make it more pleasurable to watch. But they went there and I would ask Michael Dawson. Michael will know when you're a centre half and a defender and you play in them games and you come away with what you started the game for, which was a point, and you've had to soak up the pressure and you put your body on your line. It is, Michael, a magnificent feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. I think Everton going there as well. That's how they're set up. Listening into Tim, and you've done your job. And I think you have to, because you look who plays there. The pace of that they've got in wide areas, Arsenal. You go toe to toe with them, you're going to be in big trouble. Defend the edge of the box, which I think they like doing, Everton. That is what they're all about. And that's a Sean Dyche team, which I've always said, when you've got him in charge, and I saw last week, or 2 weeks ago, sorry, a Dyche sign out, I'm like, give it a rest. He will get you results and he'll get you out of trouble. What are you expecting from this Everton team? The grit and determination, the fight that they've shown. They started off disastrously, conceding goals, but they've also got these kind of performances in them. But yeah, big performance from Everton, and from a defensive point of view, like you said, Tim, the centre halves, he's proud as Jordan Pickford.
Arsenal's challenge for the Premier League title suffered another dent after they were held to a goalless draw by Everton at the Emirates. 6 days after they failed to win at Fulham, Arsenal could again manage just 1 point as they failed to capitalise on 10-man Liverpool's 2-2 draw against the Cottagers at Anfield. Arsenal have now gone 3 consecutive league matches without scoring from open play, and they remain 6 points adrift of the Reds, having played 1 match more. They are also a point behind Chelsea, who host Brentford at Stamford Bridge on Sunday. The full-time whistle was greeted by a smattering of boos from a frustrated Emirates crowd. The best chance of an underwhelming opening period, and ultimately the match fell to Martin Odegaard on the half-hour mark. The move started with an exquisite ball from the outside of Kai Havertz's left boot, which sent Bukayo Saka on his way. The in-form England man ghosted past Jared Branthwaite before pulling the ball back to Odegaard. In space, in the centre of the area, Odegaard unleashed a left-footed strike on the Everton goal. But Jordan Pickford was on hand to produce a fine save to deny the Arsenal skipper. Pickford was called upon 2 minutes before the interval when he blocked Gabriel Martinelli's effort. Everton had been largely happy to contain their opponents, with Arsenal boasting 75% possession in the first 45 minutes, although Abdoulaye Doucouré might have done better in the 6th minute. Doucouré took too long to take aim at David Reyes' goal, and a diving Gabriel, back from injury after missing the past 2 matches, diverted the ball for a corner. Goalless at the interval, and Mikel Arteta would not have been blamed for highlighting Liverpool's plight at Anfield as motivation for his players. Indeed, the Spaniard will have demanded a strong start to the second half, and less than a minute had passed when Pickford pushed Saka's volley away for a corner. Mikel Merino's header from the ensuing set-piece was then straight at the Everton stopper. But the hour arrived and Arsenal desperately needed a spark. Arteta turned to Ethan Nwaneri, the 17-year-old hot prospect, with captain Odegaard making way. However, Nwaneri's introduction failed to have the desired impact. As the half continued, Arsenal were failing to trouble an Everton backline that had kept 3 clean sheets in their past 4 league outings. The home supporters were growing increasingly agitated, and Gabriel Jesus and Leandro Trossard were both introduced in a bid to find the breakthrough. It was one-way traffic, but Arsenal's lack of quality when it mattered was alarming. Trossard's deep cross found Havertz at the far stick, but Saka appeared to get in his teammates' way, and Pickford was not required. In the 90th minute, Thomas Partey wanted a penalty after he fell following a challenge from Vitaly Mykolenko, but referee Craig Pawson waved away his appeals. A VAR check followed, but it did not come to Arsenal's rescue on a desperately disappointing afternoon for the Gunners.